Hey, BassGeek here, and today I've got a special guest who's going to give you a literal pro tip. Today I have a legitimate pro with us who's going to give you some tips when it gets tough in the spring. This is literally a pro secret from a pro. Go ahead and introduce yourself, sir.
Major League Fishing Tackle Warehouse Pro Todd Walters.
All right, so he's out here. He come down. He was nice enough. We met in Raleigh during the Raleigh show, by the way, down at Skyline Marine. We've been hanging out. He's going to give you some really cool secrets about what he likes to do with a Neko rig during the spring. That is super impressive. All right, let's let him show you.
All right, so we are on South Holston Reservoir in Bristol, Tennessee. And first time I've ever been on this lake. I've always wanted to fish it, and BassGeek lives right near it, so I got the invite and had to come. Things are a little tough. We got a little bit of a cold snap. Fish are getting ready to get up and do their thing. So fishing's a little tough. So I've messed around with the Neko rig. It's kind of become my confidence bait, and I'm going to show you how to rig a couple different baits, including one secret tip that I'm just starting to learn right now. All right, so there's a couple different weights that I use with my Neko rig. The first one is a real light. It's a 1/32 ounce weight. These are lead. I'm too cheap to use tungsten weights, so these are lead weights, and you just stick them in the end of the worm. You want that whole Neko weight to be inside the worm, and you want the tip of that weight to be flush with the worm. I'll show you in a second. The second one, this is a 1/16. If you're fishing a little bit deeper or it's a little windier, you want to use a little bit heavier weight. This one I just started using. It's just kind of it's a heavier end. You can see the little mushroom end, and that makes the bait fall a little bit quicker, and I'll show you why in a second. So the hooks I use, and I've been messing around with a bunch of different ones. I'm not sponsored by any hook company. So this is a Brent Ayler Gamakatsu B10 Stinger. It's got a little titanium weed guard on it. If you're fishing around trees or you're fishing around vegetation, help make that bait come through the cover a little bit quicker. And this is a Owner. It's got a little bit longer weed guard, still titanium, but it's got a little wider weed guard, and that's better in the heavier cover. All right, so the baits I like to throw are basically stick worms. This is a Zoom Magnum finesse worm. It's just a short, fat worm. I like a little bit of red flake in the springtime. I think it adds a little bit something to it, especially when it's sunny out. I like to use something with a little bit of red flake in it. The second one is a Daiwa Neko Fat. This is just a flat green pumpkin. I also throw red flake in it when it's sunny out as well. This is a Zoom Speed Craw. This is one of my favorite baits in the world. It's just very versatile. You can fish it on a Neko rig. You can use it as a jig trailer. You can use it as a swim jig trailer. You can Carolina rig it. Guys do it a lot up north. That's one of my favorite baits of all time. This is a Yamamoto cut tail worm. This is a 6-inch bait. It's a little bit bigger. It's got a little bit fatter head, so you can fit a bigger weight in it. So if you're fishing deep and you want to feel the resistance, this is a great worm to use in deeper water, or if you're fishing around bigger fish. And this is a Yamamoto Senko. This is a 5-inch. This one's got a little purple red flake in it. Again, in the sun, I like to use a little bit of red flake, but Yamamoto Senko, everybody knows what that is. This is how I like to rig my Neko rig. So this is the Zoom Magnum Finesse worm. This is watermelon red. O-ring tool, you can get these anywhere. I like to start, there's a little egg sac you can see in the middle of this worm, and I put my O-ring right above the egg sac. So just put the worm in right to where it gets to the egg sac, slide your O-ring on, slide it in place, and you're good to go. If you want to have the hook point facing in a different direction, you can put 2 on it and fold them over one another. So instead of the hook being parallel with the worm, it's actually perpendicular with the worm. And you can see that you can hook your bait through the 2 O-rings and your hook is now perpendicular instead of being parallel with the bait. And then last but not least, you add your weight. So I'm gonna put the 1/16 in, it's a little windier today, and just insert it into the head, push it down to the bait. Make sure that bait stays straight. If it doesn't stay straight, when it falls, it can spiral, twist your line, and make a mess. So just make sure that weight's in there straight. You can see how it's flush with the head of the worm. And that is your Neko rigged, weedless Magnum finesse worm. Now I'm gonna rig the Yamamoto Senko. So I'm gonna put the small weight in this. You bank anglers, if you're fishing from shore, a lighter weight is usually best for you guys. So I'm gonna push this weight into the worm and get it straight. Senkos are a little tricky because they got a lot of salt in them. They're also a lot softer, so you want it to be straight. So you got the weight in there. I'm gonna rig this the standard way and just use one O-ring. Now on a Senko, you want that O-ring to be halfway through the egg sac, just like that. And that bait will fall. It'll fall head first, and it should fall straight down. If it doesn't fall straight down, you can adjust the O-ring and make sure that that weight is straight, because if it's not straight, it won't fall straight down. It will do this. It'll twist your line. It doesn't look natural. So the whole concept behind this is to be as natural and subtle as possible. So something I started messing around with recently is Neko rigging creature baits. And the reason for that is because it has a completely different fall to it than a stick worm or a finesse worm or any of the other straight tail worms. So I like it because it gives a little bit of action, and I'll show you a couple ways to increase the action on this. So you'll notice that the Ultra Vibe Speed Craw has that little crease. What I'll do is just take a pair of scissors and just make that crease a little bit bigger. And what that does is it allows these flappers to do their thing on a lighter weight, so I don't have to use such a heavy weight to get the flappers to move. And you want those, when this bait falls, you want those flappers to activate. If you don't have enough weight on it, they won't activate and it defeats the whole purpose. You'll notice that on the Ultra Vibe Speed Craw, it has these notches. The second notch is the one that I want to put the O-ring on. So if you take these two little appendages at the top and you fold them forward, slide that into your O-ring tool, get it on the second notch, and that notch actually is the perfect size for a number 10 rubber O-ring. For the weight, I use this mushroom head, and the reason for that is I've tried a couple different ways to put a nail weight in this and to get it to fall the correct way, but it doesn't fall the correct way. It's not enough weight. So this mushroom head actually forces that bait to fall a little bit quicker. I'm gonna push it in here, and you're gonna do the same thing that you do with any other Neko rig. You're gonna get that bait as straight as you can and push it up onto the mushroom head Neko weight. Bait straight, O-rings in place, weights in place, and that should fall perfectly. The whole concept behind this is that weight hits the bottom and that bait will scurry backwards just like a crawdad. It looks identical to a crawdad scurrying away on the bottom. If you've ever seen a crawdad do that, they always go backwards. They crawl forward, but then they scoot backwards. So when you're fishing this bait, when it gets to the bottom, you want to kind of twitch it a little bit and just make it scurry along, and it looks exactly like a crawdad. So there's a couple other things that I do. I actually take a small rattle and I insert it into the bait. This is a Z-Man, I guess it's a rattle injector, but it's very cool. I can put the rattle right in the head of the bait. So that's the fattest part of the bait. That's the fattest part of the bait. So I want to insert that rattle, push it into the bait, push the little thingy out, and the rattle's in there. With these, I always hook it so that the hook is parallel, and you want to hook it from the bottom up. So just put that hook You don't even need to get the soft plastic if you don't want to, because that little slot will hold that bait right in place. And that O-ring, that hook isn't even in the plastic, it's just behind the O-ring. It just fits perfectly. So when this bait falls, it'll fall like this, it'll hit the bottom, and then that bait will scurry on the bottom. Now, depending on how aggressive the fish are, you can do aggressive jerks or you can just crawl it along the bottom, but that rattle is going to make just enough noise to get their attention and sound more natural. So we got our baits rigged. I'm going to show you the rod, reel, and line that I like to use for my Neko rigs. This is a 7-foot medium action Daiwa Rebellion rod. I've got a Luz 300 series reel. I like a 300 size. This is 20-pound K9 braided line, and I've got about a 10-foot 7-pound Sunline FC Sniper fluorocarbon leader. All right, so a couple of places I like to fish this bait this time of the year. The water temperature is about 50 degrees. The fish are thinking about spawning, but they're not really there yet. So we're in a creek right now, and we're on a very steep, deep lake. And a couple different places that I like to throw this is on the steeper banks around laydowns, wood, things that fish like to get around, especially when it's sunny outside. Fish like to get around and hang out and cover. So I like to throw it on laydowns. I also like to throw it on rock. It's a great bait around rock. Crawdads like to hang around rock, so fish will oftentimes be around rock to search for crawdads, and that's a great place to throw this bait. As the fish start to move and get ready to spawn, they'll start getting on secondary points. So any stumps, rocks, brush piles, anything on a secondary point, the fish will use those to stage before they get ready to spawn. For you shore guys, you can work this bait actually a lot better from shore because you're pulling the bait up and not pulling it from deep to, you're pulling it from deep to shallow, not shallow to deep. And a lot of times when you fish a Neko rig, you can move it actually way too much. And when you move it too much, it doesn't look natural and the fish won't eat it. So you want to move that bait very, very softly and very slowly. Nekos will move a very far distance with very minimal rod tip action. So guys from shore, when you're fishing a Neko rig and you're dragging it back, your presentation actually looks more natural than a lot of guys that fish this bait from a boat fishing shallow to deep. So how I like to fish this bait is I like to, depending on the clarity of the water and where the fish seem to be holding, I want to actually throw it past the fish and I want to bring it to them parallel. So a lot of times, especially with this speed craw, fish, it'll draw a lot of attention the second it hits the water. And once it does that, a lot of times they'll eat this bait on the fall. So watch your line, pay attention. But if this bait does hit the bottom and fish doesn't have it yet, you just want to basically shake it. You want to shake it in place and then move it, pull it, drag it just a little bit. Then just sit there, shake it in place. That little rattle and that heavier weight will hold that bait in place, and it just looks like a crawdad just sitting there kind of shaking in place. All right, so you threw your Neko rig and you got a bite. So with any finesse presentation, most of the times I want to just apply pressure. When I feel that fish has that bait, just a real quick jerk, snap behind your ear, will typically get that small little finesse hook to penetrate the fish's mouth. These are very fine, light wire hooks. Doesn't take a whole lot. You don't need to, it's not a jig. You don't need to jerk as hard as you can. You just want to pull up, feel that pressure or feel that bite, and then just a real quick snap and that hook should penetrate the fish's mouth. And once you get that fish up and out, just keep that rod high, keep that rod tip high, and just keep cranking until you get them out of the cover, and then you can fight them and mess around with them. Or if you're fishing from shore, once you hook that fish, just keep that rod tip high and just keep him coming straight to you.
All right, geeks, I hope you enjoy having a pro, Mr. Todd Walters out here. He and we have had a really good time this weekend. And just like all my friends, he's jumped right in and started ribbing me right off the bat. I hope he does it. We're trying to get him to start a YouTube channel. And if he starts with the nickname, I'm killing him. So
It's all right, hanky panky.
No, don't do it. All right. So, man, I appreciate you coming out. It's been really fun.
Yeah,
I hope I'm going to get to come down and fish for some big spots down his way.
Yeah.
And
anytime you want to come, man, you're more than welcome.
I'd love to come down and do it.
Yep.
You want to shout out any of your sponsors? Say hi to anybody?
Yeah, I just want to thank Ionic Lithium Batteries for everything they do for me. Without them, I couldn't do this. And we got a new forward-facing sonar battery, which is coming out really, really soon. It's going to be cool. Hank's got one in his boat. Well, it's not in his boat yet.
Yeah.
He's got it, but it's not in his boat yet. But he's going to get it in his boat. He's going to do some videos on that. And I'm going to do some videos on it as well.
Yep.
It's going to be really cool. Check it out.
We're going to get Todd into the YouTubing thing. I'm pretty sure of it. So, all right. As always, questions, comments in the comment section below. You geeks know we love to talk fishing with you. Hey, let us know if you like having some pros on here. We're going to try and do this maybe a little more often. Definitely with Todd. And let's see.
Shout out to the geeks, man. You guys are awesome.
Yeah, I'm glad he filled in right there because I done forgot how to say my outro. Like it if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. Make sure you ring that bell, get the notifications when these videos come out. You 100% Watch Squad, you geeks rock. And as always, every single one of you, you geeks rock.